Okay, we are off and running here. We've got people that are online, so I'll be checking my phone every now and then to make sure if I see any chat stuff come in, questions. Thank you for those of you who are in the room. We appreciate it. Expanding horizons in adult education with technology. I sort of summarized the title. It was a lot longer than that, but I just shrunk it down because didn't want to do all the other words. So if this isn't where you thought you were going to be, you can slip out, no problems. Take a long walk back to wherever it was. We just stay for the time here. We'll have some fun here together. I'm Neil Richmond. I'm one of the co-founders of Connectable. When you came in, I left a little bit of stuff there if you wanted to pick it up, a little newsletter and business card. If you're interested in learning about what we're doing, because we're all about tech. That is a big part of my everyday life. And I usually say, you can tell the tech people with one simple question. So I'm going to ask it and raise your hand which category you're in. I'm an Android person. That's not the question. I won't ask that one because we know that'll start some, battles. We don't want to do that. When you get the notification on your phone that you have a new version of your operating system to come out, or on Windows, on your computer or whatever, on your Mac, how many of you jump on that and install it right away? Wow. How many? Pretty quickly. How many of you wait as long as you can? Some of you have an iPhone 5, don't you? Almost. You would if you could. My brother-in-law would if he could still, but he's been forced into new ones because they don't function that way. All right. So now I know why you're here mostly. All right. You don't love tech. And you may feel like tech doesn't love you, but it does. It really does. And so we're going to take a journey through some things and talk about, I'm going to talk for a while about some philosophical aspects of tech and where we are in that zone. And then we're going to dive into, I just want to show you some examples of how we are, as an organization, are helping programs look at tech and implement that into adult ed. So we'll have some practical, and if you have questions along the way, feel free. If you're online, feel free to jump in if you have questions as well as we're going through. So who is this guy? Neil Richmond. What about him? Well, there's a little bit of family stuff. My wife, Amy, just did a presentation down there somewhere. I was helping her. She's down at our booth there. She's an adult educator, a long-time adult educator. I didn't know anything about adult education. I was a high school teacher, and I met Amy. We'll be celebrating 10 years of marriage here later this year. And I was like, what do you do? She's like, well, I teach in a inner city middle school, and then I do, how you doing? Hey, good to see you. And then I do adult ed at night classes. And now I'm like, what is this all about? And so I learned about what adult ed was through that. So we have grown children, got the opportunity to do wedding for one of them and another one in college. And we're about to be grandparents in a few months, which I may or may not be home when that happens, because I travel all around the country doing conferences and visiting our schools, and I may not be there, but my wife will be there. I'm one of the co-founders of Connectable. We'll talk a little bit more about that. That's my wife, Amy, in the middle, and our third co-founder is Dr. Treg Hopkins. He was a longtime community college director. So we bring all that together to try to help adult ed programs. So just in case you missed it, I'm from Australia, right? That's my hometown, all the way down here on the southwest. Takes me just travel time about 35 hours from our home base in Indianapolis to get to my hometown of Albany, West Australia. Very long time. But I wanted to share with you that I don't come from tech at all. In fact, this is the house that I grew up in. My wife and I were there last year, and it is dilapidated now. It is falling apart. I think the ants have got a hold of it, and before long they'll probably carry it away with all of that. But our water came from a rainwater tank. Our toilet, or the loo as I call it, was about 100 meters out in the backyard. In order to get there at night, scary night, You had to go past this tree that was like a weeping willow type tree that like moved in the dark. And like you walk by and all of a sudden something would hit you as one of the branches, very scary. And there was a big swing that always seemed to be in the way. I remember that. It was a long time ago. And I still remember. And in order to make phone calls, we had to call the local, down the road from us, Italian family, who would hopefully understand what we were saying and plug in one little thing to another and so on, and that would connect the phone call into the family that we needed to talk to. So I grew up a long way away from tech. Some of you maybe too, where in the world you grew up was far from that. You know, and I would say all of us grew up without carrying one of these in our pocket all day long, right? You know, our kids may not understand that, but we understand what that world was like. So as I think about tech and the journey that I've been on, I know for me, my journey has been going from nothing to a lot. You know, I've been in America 35 years now. So I've experienced a lot of things that still aren't in Australia in some extent. So if I was there, it would look very different than what it is. But I started to see the patterns. I had a print newspaper. The reason I went to Maine was because I was in a franchise. I had a print newspaper that I did locally in the early 2000s. And I realized that probably wasn't the future. Going online was the future and things like that. So I learned to build websites and I started supporting programs with that. And so the journey went on. And so as we think about this topic today, I want you to think about the journey that maybe you've been on, that your students are on, because if you think about it, that's the big part of this story. It's about your students and how can we support them in ways that make complete sense and get them on the journey that they need to be and want to be on. And so that's what I'm going to focus on, is that side of things. But as you're sitting there and looking, wow, this sounds like too much, I don't know how to accomplish it and all of that, don't let that dissuade you. Think about my little scenario of growing up here and the big journey. So one of the points I want to bring home today is technology can transform how we reach, teach, and empower adult learners. Let's explore how innovative approaches can break down those barriers and can change lives. And this presentation, by the way, is up in the app. You can go down and download all my slides and that sort of thing. Somehow the wrong file went up earlier today. So if you went earlier today, you might have got everything I'm going to say. And I mean, you could fall asleep now or whatever you want. But this is up there in my slides. Three main points I'm going to cover today. The first one is breaking barriers with tech. So, you know, we know the obvious things, right? Adult learners, they face some real life challenges that are very real every single day. So what are some of them? What are some of the real life challenges that adult learners face in order to get that GED, that education, to learn English, get that IET or whatever it is? All right. So my day has already occupied me, whether it's physically or mentally, and now I'm going to have to fit some school time outside of that. All right. What else?
Isolation. I live in a rural part.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. They don't, I mean, I would say on one part of that is they don't know where to turn, where to get the solutions, what do I need, or it's a long way to get there. Let me just quickly here. How long do some students travel to get to your programs? 2 hours?
You know, anymore, we do everything online.
Yeah, but there could be.
10-20 miles.
All right, so not too bad, but you know, that's still a journey for some that need to take. Yeah, anybody over a couple of hours away?
I had one person that came to me because from Canada.
Yeah,
and they
okay,
had to drive an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Get to me.
so she's up in Maine, so up in the northeast up there, close, yeah. And so that's a challenge for them. So think about it. Transportation is an issue. Childcare is an issue. Irregular work schedules. So the way my work pattern is, I can only come at certain times and I can't come at other times. So that's a challenge with that. And I would even say above all of that is a lack of confidence. They've been there, done that, have the scars to prove it. And they're not sure about the next step in this journey, especially when it comes to traditional classrooms, where a lot of these experience happens. You know, it could be decades when the last time they were in some sort of formal learning. So this is where technology steps in. And I want to emphasize, I do not believe for 1 second that technology replaces teachers. It doesn't replace teachers or programs. But what technology does is it removes the friction that a lot of adult learners have. It removes the friction. So with tech platforms, learners can access courses anytime, anywhere, whether it's going to the local library with a computer there or a tablet or on their phone, whatever it is, the experience adapts to them instead of them adapting to the experience. So somewhat I'm going to focus on is what can we be doing with the tech that's out there to help these learners to plug in and achieve their objectives. And here's what's powerful. These tech platforms, even small little interventions like automated nudges, progress tracking, video lessons, they can be paused and resumed, which is something that is such a great part of the learning experience. And so what that does is it turns I'll try it into I did it with that. And so that's something we're going to talk about. Here's the reality. Over 43 million adults with low literacy in the US. Less than 5% of them are currently enrolled in an adult ed program. So if you think of it in a marketing sense, the marketplace is huge out there still for adult ed. That's a reality. And so if we can bring access in a 24/7 type model that's available to them when they're available, it changes the nature. Technology that meets learners where they are, on their phones, in their pockets, can eliminate the issues that they can have with transportation and childcare. It may not, but it could. And that's part of the exploration with all of this. So there's an opportunity. Tech meets learners where they are. How does it do that? Here are some of the key ingredients, I believe, to that. First of all, mobile-friendly access. So if what you're asking your students to do can't be accessed on a phone, maybe a tablet, but let's just say phone, you're going to run into challenges for the students to be able to do and accomplish some of the things you need. Because learning on the go, anytime, anywhere, is very much the model today. And there are many students who, during their breaks at work, are pulling up their phone and completing another lesson or two in their journey. Getting home, getting dinner going, and then working on a couple more lessons as they go through their journey and so on. It's a very different model. And this is where tech is playing such an important role. Self-paced learning. Learn at your own speed, fitting education into your life. Gentle nudges and reminders. Stay on track with supportive reminders. I'm old-ish, and I am forgetting so many things these days, I find. In my brain is like jam-packed with all sorts of things. And so I have all sorts of apps on my phone that tell me when I'm supposed to do stuff. Anybody else in that category? Yeah. And I find them so helpful. And so much so that, like, some of them have become such a habit. I've been doing them for so long that I actually remember to do something on my own now ahead of the app telling me. In fact, I've got a little game with that where I'm trying to think about it and go, okay, I'm supposed to do this now and get it done. And when the thing pops up, go, beat you, boom, done, sort of thing. But there's something about that because of the way that we are going through life on a daily basis. Sometimes we can get caught up in things and we forget. Our students are the same way. We can give them little nudges, little reminders, just little things that will help. Hello.
There you go.
Whoa, that's somebody who didn't get out the exit. This is not the stairs. These are the sort of things that will help get them to the finish line as well. We cannot expect our learners to just jump in and run with it. Some will, but many won't. They will need the guidance. And then progress tracking for motivation. See achievements, stay motivated, see where they are in the journey through things. We have one thing that we do with students where we have a checklist that the student will go through in order to complete all the steps that they need to A, get registered, and B, complete in the program. And it's so funny because some students ignore that 100%. They don't, it's like it never existed. Other students have emailed questions about like, how do I accomplish this step? And I can tell you, it may or may not have been something they needed to worry about, but because it was there and because it was a journey that they were expected to be on, they wanted to know, how do I get there? And that question would never have been asked if that wasn't available to them. And so I love to map it out for people so they can see what that journey looks like with everything. Technology brings education to you, fitting seamlessly into your mobile life and your busy schedule. How many of you are taking or have taken recently an online class? All right. How was the experience? Good, bad? Yeah. Better than jumping in your car and going to, an evening class or driving a distance for a few days or something like that? Yeah. Some of you are online here. You might have some comment on that, seeing you're in that boat, sort of. Yeah. What were some of the negatives of that? Yeah, you don't get to talk to the other students. Yeah.
Delayed questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait.
If you're doing it on your own, if you're doing it like, let's say some models would be like, you meet at a certain time for a Zoom class, or maybe that Zoom class is live and recorded, then those that can't join at that time can watch it later. But if you're not, then yes, there's a delay. What else?
For me, it was the pace. In person is a little bit different than online discussions, repost, read through the post, 5 minutes.
Which do you like? Do you like them pace online, or do you prefer the pace?
It's something I had to get used to.
Yeah, okay, because it is self-paced, a lot of it, right? So there might be a point to where it's self-paced, and now you jump in at some point and so that becomes a part of the model. And of course, you can do the hybrid versions, and I love this, where you've got students who are in classes, but you're offering some tech elements for them to be able to move them along and get a little bit deeper in their experience as well. So there's a variety of ways that this can roll out on that side of things. So a few examples. Oh, hold on, I messed my page order up. I knew I was going to do that. They printed it like front and back, and it just confused me. So a few stories I want to share with you. Brianna, she's a 36-year-old mom in Indiana, caring for kids and her elderly mother. All right, think about your students. How many do you have that probably fit similar criteria to that? She used Connectable during her lunch breaks and her late nights, and while she was in waiting rooms to get her classwork done. And if you think about that story, how different of a model is that to what the traditional, I have to attend class at this location at this time is, and how that would have been a challenge for her. She earned her HSC and has now started a workforce certification as a result of being able to do all of that at her pace, in her way. And her success wasn't about beating the odds. It was about having access. That's a very different conversation today than it was. And look, I will back up the train and say, I don't believe for 1 minute that COVID was a good thing. But what it did is it changed the nature of adult education. It changed the nature of a lot of things, but it made it possible that adult education could be online and could be run in a different way than it had been previously. And I was singing that song since about 2016 at adult ed conferences, and nobody liked my song. I don't sing well anyway, so I understand that. But people definitely were not getting into that groove. They're like, no, we do it in person. That's it. No other way. Goodbye. And that sort of thing. I'm like, okay. But when that all came, everything changed. And all of a sudden the thought process changed. We can do this. We can be a little more accommodating. And of course, now there's a student expectation of that as well, that has to be met. All right. Second point I want to bring to you is boosting engagement through customization. Here's the truth. Adult learners don't need more content, they need more connection. All right. So we have to think about that when we think about content and learning and tech and all of that. Most of the time, they come in carrying years of experience. Sometimes that's work experience, but sometimes that's educational trauma. So when they log into a learning platform, they shouldn't feel like they're starting from zero. They should feel like the system sees them, respects them, and works with them. That's where customization makes all the difference. Okay, with tech platforms, how do we go about breaking these barriers? Well, number one is coming up with ways to adapt how learners perform, right? So adaptive learning, a personalized path. And I know forever, adult educators have been great at this, but it's a challenge in class to have a variety of pathways. But adult educators are great at looking at their students in their room and working out where people need to be on that journey and helping to guide them as best as they can. What we're talking about here is we're talking about building technology that allows students to fall into a path that fits them best. Whether that could be the content, whether that could be the learning style, whatever that might be in the big picture, that's part of what tech can bring, and that's part of what will help students. Here's another piece that really helps break down these barriers. Chunking content into smaller pieces. Why is that important? Because conceptually, I think we do better in general to take things, think of it, the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Sometimes the learning approach can be a little bit like bite the whole elephant versus the bite at a time approach. And so if you're able to take content and chunk it down, it's much easier to assimilate, number one, but number two, it's much easier for a student to dive in and walk through a concept and complete that and maybe get interrupted and then come back and go, okay, now that piece was done, I can now jump into the next piece versus a big, long piece of content that takes hours, and then the student may never progress because they simply can't get back into that for the time period that's being asked, or it may take a while for them to do it. So if you can bite-sized piece your content down, even in classroom scenarios, it helps in busy lives to be able to manage that. It makes it more digestible. Third one is use built-in assessments to adjust difficulty on the fly, right? So that's a big one. What can we do to show things that are important and will help people move to the next step? Maybe setting some goals and then being able to help them see the achievement of those. And then feedback loops, badges and recognition. They build confidence. One of the things that we realized a long time ago was we wanted either teachers or programs to recognize students' achievements and put awards of those achievements into their dashboard so students could see that and be recognized for it and know that they're making progress because they're seeing these things. And that becomes a very important part. Even small features like goal setting dashboards, or how many of you have ever done some more gamification of things that you're teaching and sharing? Anybody jumped into that field some?
You mean on the computer?
Well, it could be on a computer, it could be in a class, just turning your learning into a game approach as opposed to just straight learning, right? Yeah, some of you have done that for sure, right? You know, like probably a popular one will be to get like a Kahoot out and use that as a learning tool, right? So that would be an example of that sort of thing. It works really well, especially with younger learners, I'd say 30 and under, who love that gamification aspect. I was visiting a program recently that had implemented some of those ideas, and it was so cool to see that like they were doing certain activities that would earn certain points, and they had sort of like a little competition and leaderboard going and all of that. And all of a sudden, the learning took on a whole nother perspective in their minds than it did when it was just content. And I work through the workbook, and I'm doing it by myself. I'm not doing it in that group setting. So that becomes important. Because for adult learners, engagement doesn't mean excitement, it means relevance. It means this matters to me right now. And so that's an important part of what that whole journey looks like for adult learners. So here's Antonio. Antonio definitely had some educational trauma. He dropped out of high school when he was 17. He's now 33. He works in manufacturing, but he came back to education to help improve his reading and to get certified. And this is what he was trying to do. As he got in and started to go through his learning content, he began to see progress. And because he saw progress, his consistency with doing it increased, and so he improved. And now he's able to say that he has maybe when he hated school growing up and felt left behind, he now feels a part of it and he feels like he's making progress. He gets instant feedback. He started seeing reading in terms of work skills, not in terms of a book of questions, textbook drills. And so his confidence shot up, and so did his progress as a result. It was just about looking at it a different way than when he had looked at it before. And there's an interesting stat at the bottom there. Learners are 2.5 times more likely to complete when given personalized feedback and reminders. All right. So the reminders one probably makes sense, but we don't always think about personalized feedback with that. But this was from EdTech Evidence Exchange in 2023, where they did some study and learned that, like, if you are trying to get learners to that end game, feedback and reminders is a great way to increase that opportunity for that to happen. And that's an important part of the journey and the process. When we customize learning to match real lives and real goals, we don't just hold attention, we build momentum. All right, so talking about the tech, and we're talking about implementing and all of that. One more point, and then I'll give you some examples here. We need to measure what matters. And we're going to talk about outcomes. You've seen it, you know, programs that track attendance and seat time, but they can't really tell you if the learners have actually been able to put any of that into practical use and make use of the information that they're getting. So it's time to shift focus. It's time to stop focusing on just participation to progress that means something. With technology, we can go beyond old metrics. We can track skill mastery, credential attainment, career movement in real time. With technology, we can see where learners are thriving or struggling, offer timely support and nudges like we've talked about before learners drop off. One of the things that if you're not seeing and able to regularly see attendance patterns, you'll start to begin to see when you're looking at attendance patterns regularly, you'll be able to see where that line is to where if a student crosses that, the chances of them coming back again starts to slip away. So if you're seeing those numbers on a regular basis, you're able to go, okay, this student's starting to get to that edge. Forget 90 days, right, before they're exited from a program. We want to catch them probably at 10 days, 5 days, you know, unless you know otherwise, that's a pattern that will start repeating. We want to align learning with job skills, with certifications, and with community needs. We want to report on real impact, not just who showed up, but who leveled up on those side of things. And here's the key: data builds trust. We have another one of our team presenting tomorrow in one of the presentations that is all about data. If you're a data person and you're wanting to look at that with some new eyes, especially with the accompanying AI side of looking at data, you'll want to check out the presentation tomorrow. And I don't remember when it is off the top of my head right now. I think it might be on our paper. I don't know. But one of our team, Dr. Matthew Pranger and Dr. Treg Hopkins, they'll be addressing that tomorrow. And it's a really good topic to think about, because as you look at the numbers, you're able to tell the story. And that story is important with all of that. So what's the solution? You need to measure what matters. Okay, and that's going to be different depending on different things you're doing. So firstly, I would say look beyond attendance. Traditional metrics miss real impact, tracking skill progress and certification readiness instead of just seat time. And so again, adult ed has a requirement, obviously, of tracking attendance and time and all of that. That doesn't mean to say you just stop doing that and go, oh, I'm not going to pay attention to that anymore. No. But you are looking at what skills have been attained. What can we be doing to help the students take this out into the real world, and measuring those levels. There are some of the great resources down in the exhibit area. There's lots of companies that have lots of different resources that can help and assist with that. But there's things you can do on the ground level within your program as well. Next thing would be career alignment. Data shows how learning connects to real jobs. That motivates learning and validates program value. When they are seeing how this impacts them, and if they can come in, go through some of these journeys and leave and get a higher paying job. We have one program that works with Crown. They have a Crown factory right in their community, and they share students back and forth. And what do I mean by that? Crown sends them students who need to get their GED and level up on that side with their skills, reading, math, all of that. And they find great students who come in who are getting their GED and looking for a good job in the community. And so there's a lot of alignment between the adult ed program and the GED and Crown, because they are right on the same page with like developing the skills across and providing them with the technology to be able to do that even outside of the regular classroom. And then engagement insights. Real-time data helps instructors intervene before dropouts. Small adjustments lead to big completions. We all know adult ed has a lot of students who get very excited and then disappear into who knows where, right? I've seen it many times over, where the students come in, get excited, or maybe they sign up and then never come in. Or this one always blows my mind. They sign up, they go through all the process. I even have one student who signed up 10 times for their program. Like they went through 10 times and they did everything 10 times. I don't know why, what was going on in their brain. But they come in, right? They test, and you never see them again. I don't understand some of the thought processes that happened. I'd love to have conversations with some just to understand. But that's part of the journey. And so the challenge is, don't just measure time spent, but measure the lives that are changed as a new metric to think of in your program. This is Muhammad. Muhammad came to a local adult ed program. He had a 6th grade reading level when he arrived, but he was able to go through the program, get his scores up and all of that, and he also earned certification. His progress wasn't just tracked, it was celebrated, documented, and connected directly into a new job opportunity for him in a factory that earned better pay for him and all of that, because he was able to get in and connect and be able to get through the experience of it to get to the other side. IET learners are 3 times more likely to enter the workforce successfully. Muhammad is a proof of what's possible when it comes to that. So, and that's an Octave report that comes from. So I want to switch over a little bit and talk to a few practical things. Here's what we're doing. And there's more ways than what we're doing. I will say that very clearly, but this is how we're interpreting some of this and helping adult ed programs around the country. We serve 20 states right now, about 100 adult ed programs. And so we're really helping them to think through this. This is a little more of what we offer.
It's cold.
Is it freezing over there? Everybody move to the room, tip a little. Yes, feel free to move around. The best chair in the house is up here, but that's in the cold area, so you can move to the side if you need to. This is just a little bit about what we do to help adult ed programs. We do a lot of the tech side of things, but we're looking at how we can help a program save time or manage their enrollment or connect with students more with the engagement side of things. Or just in general, looking at things we can do for programs to help with the funding or with PD or with different things like that, because that's a very important part of the process to us. If you got one of the little black and white newsletters there, it's down on one of the columns as well. So you'll have a copy of that available. But let me talk practically about three things. We knew that students had to have visibility to their journey in adult ed. They don't right now. Very few things are out there that I'm aware of where students can actually see what's going on in their world. I had a state director tell me once that kindergarten students have more knowledge about their education than adult education students do, because they've got to like piece it all together in the, in their little world. And so what we did is we created a student dashboard that's mobile friendly on their phones. So they can see it and experience it. And then of course we have a staff dashboard as well, where staff have information, all the information for their students. They can connect with them via email or text. They can see all the information that's there. The student can update in real time, have accurate information on that student. We even ask them to upload a picture of themselves. Who hasn't like enjoyed an experience of where you actually knew who the student was when they walked in the door, as opposed to they walk in and you have no idea, no background, no information. We gather all of this ahead of time so that you know who's coming and you can prepare and guide them with that. So the student dashboard, just a quick little run through on that. Here's a few things that we do. You can share documents back and forth. Ever tried to send stuff with emails and everything gets lost and it's like a sheet that they have to fill in, and by the time you get it back, it's all messed up and it's crazy. We have a resume builder because we know we want to help students be able to get that next step in their career if that's what they need. And it's a collaborative resume builder where the student can go in and do their part. We even, when they choose their career area, we go into ONET and we grab the skill sets that are required based on ONET, and they can go through and choose the ones that they've already attained, so that will automatically fill in on their resume. Student gets done, then a staff member or a counselor in their program can now work with them to continue to improve that. Or maybe in some cases, maybe the resume is coming in Spanish, and now that needs to be translated over to English so that they can go apply for jobs, whatever that looks like. And then when they're both done, you can then with one click save it as a beautiful PDF that then can be used to upload on sites or print out and take, and that all done right there. Are there better resume builders out there? Yes, but there's none where you as a staff member can collaborate with the student very well and have it all in one place so that everybody knows where to go, one place. So we have that built in. We capture success stories from the students. So you've always got success stories that can go into your program. You can award achievements to your students. So as they achieve these different steps within your program or certain elements that they've achieved, you can pop that in the dashboard. So that's another way to share. Track attendance. So right there, we have it in a little yellow box. Boom. There's the number of days since you were last in class. Staff have the same visibility. Very important way to do that. Orientation appointments. If they're coming in, you need a way to be able to have them book a time and a place and a date. And then, because we are professional, we want to give them the ability, if they need to change it, to just log in and make a change. Just like you would with your dentist. Actually, sometimes dentists and doctors are worse at that. Horrible to get a change done. You got to call them during their hours, and so on. But we make it all available right there. We're also looking at like gathering the goals and barriers that students see. So you as staff can see that as well in advance. They can see their classes. They can see all the links that they need off to any resources that you have. And because we have a learning management built into it, you can have class content in there for them. And so whether they're coming in and this is running in parallel to them being in class, or whether they're just doing it online, it can all be accessed from their dashboard very easily and very quickly. They can share messages back and forth with the staff. Don't have text, don't have email, don't look at my email. There's still another way to share, and the teacher can send messages out to all their students, and then the students can respond back to their teacher as well. So here's a little look at our learning management system. So you can put your classes in there, whether it's, something to go along with a math class. We know that that's the biggest challenge for students, right? Getting their HSE or their GED is the math. And so you can build additional math curriculum so that that can go along with whatever you're doing in classes, or that could be completely done online. You can build certification classes that can be inside the system as well. But this is all accessible to students in the same place. They just log into the same place, click a button, and they're in and they're learning. And then you're able to, here's an example of the math one. They're able to see any announcements and introduction you have. They're able to see their lessons. They're able to dive in a little bit deeper and see where they are in the journey of things. Then you're able to, hold up, now we got kicked into another one. All right, so my slides got messed around with. I noticed they reformatted when I moved them in here, but anyway. So we also have messaging, because we know that as programs, you need to be able to communicate with your students. So we include text and email in there, and you'll see all messaging. So administratively, you can see everything. You can build templates. So if you send similar messages all along the way in the journey, you're able to save those, file them away, and when you need it, you just pop that right back up instead of having to retype everything over and over again. It's easier to send reminders and messages, very quick little interface to be able to do that, so that you don't have to spend forever. And if you need to message your entire class, they'll be preset right there. And so, this announcement needs to go out or something like that. And we love in this, if you're not using, how many of you are using text messaging now? All right, most of you, that's great. If you're not pairing it with, because the limitation with text messaging is you can't include everything, right? So I always get the question, I don't like text because I can't send them enough information. Well, we send the information via email, or we use our dashboard messaging and connectable, and then we send them a text to check their email because there's an important message for them. Is the interaction increased? Yes, it is. I don't tell them in the text always what the details are. They go over and get what they need from that. And that seems to be a really good combo. If you're not using that in your communication strategy, that could be something that could be very helpful there. Here's an example. This is in Alabama. Any Alabama people in here today? Yes, you're from Alabama. So which program are you with?
Jefferson State Community
All right.
College.
So you've seen some of this from us. So this is something in Alabama. I love what Alabama's done here. They've got a whole suite of career training resources that all students, high school and college and adult ed, go through in the state. One of those is called Alabama Career Essentials. It's a beast.
There's about 9 different modules.
Yeah, 9 different modules. I think there's 80 lessons in it. All students have to do it. And so I got asked at one point, can you help? Because the process was broken of getting students in. You could say today, I have a student that needs to take this class, but it might be 2 weeks or more before they would actually get access to it. And so we came up with an instant way to assign them. So right in the student's dashboard, they've got everything they need instantaneously, and they click the button and they can go to their class. And there's just showing you the different modules of that particular one. And with this, they've given the approximate number of hours. But this is so good because it covers so many different areas, which is really helpful there. One of the other things we do is if they are struggling language-wise, we do have a translation available. So they're able to get assistance in their language on what's being asked of them, which can be so helpful for students. And then here's an example of a lesson. They can, this is one of the modules. You can see it's a big one. They get to the end, they have to complete an assessment, checking the knowledge before they can go on to the next module. They can't just check off and go. When they get done with the lesson, they click the complete lesson button right there, so they know exactly where they are. And back to there again, I don't know where, there it is. So the student, it now logs in, they see what they've done, they've completed. They can see their progress, they can see where they are in the journey. They can very easily jump into the next lesson that they have to complete as well, without having to go through a whole lot of steps to do that. And then on the staff side, staff can log in and they can look at their students and they can see their progress at every step of the journey. They can see when that was started, when that was ended, if there was a quiz, what was the score. All of that data is available to them to be able to have visibility and then communicate back with students. Teachers can go in and they can filter for their students and their completion rate and know exactly who they need to be talking to in order to get things like that done. So that's just a few ways that we've jumped in to try to help out in the adult ed space. This is my sort of wrap up on all of this here. The future of adult education when it comes to tech really does start now. And here are the ways that we need to look at that. Number one, remove barriers. Bring learning to where life happens. That's one of the things we spent quite a bit of time on. Personalize it. Make it relevant and respectful to the students. Measure outcomes, track real world impact and success, and act now. You know, here's my call. If you're stuck, your program's stuck on implementing some of this, this is something we can help you with. We'll be happy to. But do something. That's what's important. When we give adults the tools they need, they don't just catch up, they leap forward. And that's a very true statement. A couple other things, then I'll take any questions you might have. Connectable offers a lot of professional development opportunities. There's not only for our member programs. These are some we have coming up. There's a QR code there you can scan if you're interested. Canva for adult educators, so graphic, making things look good. We're doing 2 AI sessions. AI for adult educators, the beginning one, where we basically teach you how to use ChatGPT in an adult ed environment and all of that. And then a more advanced one that's going to be a little more project based, where we're going to dive in a lot deeper and using these tools with it. We use these tools for all sorts of things all the time, and they are so helpful with all of that. Anybody here from Florida? Right, so we're bringing AI workshops to your areas coming up in the next 2 months. So if you haven't heard about it and you're interested, you might want to dig a little deeper. We'll be in Pinellas County, Miami, where else? St. Augustine in the summer session, up in the north west of the state, and then in near Miami. I know. Broward County, yes, yeah. So that's all the areas that we're heading to. We're doing 3-hour AI and adult ed workshops all around Florida coming up. But these are available for anybody to attend. And that QR code takes you to the page where you can sign up. We're trying to think about ways that we can help programs think forward when it comes to all the tech and all of that. That's me. That's my information there. If you want to learn more or have a chat about other things, you can reach out. Happy to help and answer questions in any way we can. Any questions now? Any things you're working with or doing that you'd love to share? I'd love to hear that as well. Yeah.
So I see this resource down at the exhibitor hall.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been working with our community college and our adult school on ability to benefit and adult dual enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to link possibly our processes and our agreements
Mhm.
and monitoring the student. Because
Mhm.
the student has to be an adult ed and they
Yep.
have to be doing some components in the community college.
Yep, yep.
And so I was maybe thinking in my head that we could have our ATP students come through here, we could monitor them, we
Yeah.
communicate with them.
Yep.
Ultimately, build that pathway with them.
Yep, exactly. That's what we do, is we build custom pathways so that programs have, it could be a state pathway, or it could be a program specific pathway, but we're trying to build ways so that it fits you. It fits about half of our schools are community college connected, so we're very familiar with integrating. So, if we need to send stuff to Banner or things like that, we can do that. Other systems and so on, so that as adult ed providers, you can be doing what you do and not having to worry about all the other things. Where are you? California?
California.
Yeah. So yeah, for like states like California, we integrate with TE, so you can upload the registration information and just things like that to make that whole process a lot easier. So you can focus more on the students. And that's, from a adult ed perspective, that's where I think tech helps. Yes, is there a steep learning curve at the beginning? There can be at times, depending on the nature of the staff and their tech skills. But once you get that in play, it becomes something that should streamline your processes. And I always say, when I do my initial meetings with schools, is tell me the things that like keep you up at night or bother you about the process, breakdowns that you have, and what can we do? Or how many spreadsheets are you managing everything on right now that you would love to do away with? Let's do away with them one at a time. Let's like have a little party where we burn the spreadsheets or whatever it is. These are the sort of things from adult ed perspective. But then, what I focused on a little bit more today was just flipping the script a little bit about from the student side. How can we make this tech actually bring more students into your programs and have more successful outcomes from it? That's the goal. So yeah, definitely. It's about fitting it like a glove, not like a Goodwill suit jacket that you might get that's like, whatever it is, you got to wear it. It could be too small, could be too big, could be whatever. And that's a lot. I think adult ed has had to do that a lot. And our mission is to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. And because we're a nonprofit, we make this affordable for programs, because we know that there's not massive budgets to do these things, and that's not our ultimate goal, is to help adult ed programs. So yeah.
And I think that's where we're in a good spot, because we're developing that process.
Mhm.
So we're building checklists.
Yeah,
Data
Yeah.
agreement.
Yeah.
The pathway that we're going to establish.
Yep.
And then, 2 systems working at separate different locations.
yeah.
I think that
All-
this would just be.
All things brought together. Another great thing is, like, if you have a lot of campuses, we work with
Yeah.
programs like here in Texas where they have, I think 10 or 13 counties that they are working with. And their students are spread like hours away, from one location to another, and staff and all of that, keeping all those things managed. You can't, I know that they were literally running papers from one location back to the main central office once a week for attendance. Physically taking papers and dropping them off. We've saved hours just from having an attendance model that means that anybody can grab the attendance from any location at any time, including students. Students can see, these are the sort of things. Test scores, being able to see, we're working with TABE right now. Probably many of you are TABE states, right? Some of you CASAS, we've done some work with them as well. But with TABE right now, we're going to be getting nightly uploads of all the scores, and the deep integration that tells them their areas of proficiency, and all of that will be right in their dashboard. They'll be able to grab that.
Dashboard, they would have that
Yep,
Dave
they-
info and all
they-
that diagnostic info.
Everything right there.
Yeah.
So they have the ability to own their own information very quickly. Take a test today. If it's uploaded and ready, then tonight we grab that and we stick it in their dashboard. So tomorrow they've got access to it and they can see it. These are the sort of tech forward things that adult ed has not implemented, at all very well that we think about on a regular basis to assist with those things, so. Other questions or comments?
I think this is great.
Thank you, yeah, we love doing it, we love exploring with programs, how do we make these sort of things work? We're working on a state scenario right now where, because a program in the state requested not permission, but they wanted the state to review what we were doing, the state said, oh, this looks good, let's talk about it, doing it for everybody, sort of thing. Because they're able to see that we sort of check a lot of the boxes for adult ed that most things don't. And that's what we're trying to think about is what does adult ed need? This won't work for college. This doesn't work for K-12. Just like K-12 stuff doesn't work for adult ed. College stuff doesn't work for adult ed. And so it's just about creating a pathway that is specific with that. And that's what the tech should look like. When a student logs in, we made the dashboard so simple because it's one page. And you can go in and you can customize your dashboard. And you can say, hey, I want my students to have access to Burlington and Essential Ed without having to remember the URL and passwords and all that. And oh, by the way, Essential Ed is the first one to partner with us and we're doing single sign-on. So they will be able to click a button and be logged in, not just go to the login page. But Burlington and Aztec have also said they're in on that as well. And so we'll have that coming along. These are the sort of resources that make it easier for everybody without having to remember that.
What about gd.com?
Yeah, we can connect with anything. Some of it requires the program to work with the publisher or whatever to get the permissions, but on a simple place, we can put all your logins on one page, like all the places that your students need to go in one place on their dashboard so that they don't have to go elsewhere to go find those things. And I'm building a little notepad element where the student could, for themselves, could put in all their username and passwords to things that we don't have single sign-on. So again, they don't have to go hunting, what was that? They can put it in on their dashboard. A staff member could put it in on their dashboard for them. When they log in, it's right there, copy, paste. Things like that, that just make life easier. That's what this tech forward look is all about. And we are user feedback generated. So it's the programs who are using our system who are saying, life would be easier for me or for my students if that they come into us and we build them. Sometimes the next day it's ready. It's as easy as that. My team works, most of my developers work at night when there's less people in the system. And so I might get a request today that is easy enough for us to turn around and make live tomorrow. Some of the bigger players out there can't do that. They can't, the state systems can't do that, that's for sure. And so these are the sort of things we're trying to do to be agile. So,
When are
yeah.
you going to Florida? So,
Where are you? Which area?
San Lucie County for San Lucie.
So probably the closest will probably be the Sunday before the Summer Institute in St. Augustine.
Oh.
For you, yeah,
3 hours.
yeah. We were there last year.
Yeah.
That's where the Summer Institute was. It was in Port St. Lucie, but I was staying there, yeah. So but yeah, so that'll be our first week of June. Yeah. So we'll be doing this on the Sunday, we'll be doing a session on AI and that laptop. Yeah, another question?
In regards to FERPA, so
Mhm.
if we have two, like our community college and our adult
Mhm.
school, are there like roles assigned to those who
Yep,
have
yep,
access
yep.
to data?
Yep. And we, in the agreement that we have, we're just a middleman in the middle, handing one from the other. And so for FERPA perspective, we are you. You are us. The data is there and it's visible within the platform. On our back-end systems, it's all encrypted. So nobody has access to that, just from a security perspective. So we play the middleman, handing off, just being right there. Just like, if you think about it, there's a lot of software, like let's say Amazon, for example, they're playing the same role. They're promoting what it is. You're coming along, you're putting your credit card information and probably saving it in Amazon, hoping that they will be nice and be good with it. And then when you see something you want, they're just the middleman providing you that and you're paying and boom, and off comes the stuff to your door. It's the exact same model for us, with that.
It's good for the program, not for the Amazon.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you